I land. The fire I breathe is where I live. Incredible, an animal. One life to live, I never give up, I never give in. Some people wanna turn and run, but the strong rise under the gun. Top to the top, ain't never gonna stop. To the top, to the top, ain't never gonna stop. Never gonna keep me down. Still the one that's standing now. Destiny is calling me, go down in history. Every day I fight to be legendary. Fly high, or will I fall? Legends made when faith is strong. No time to bleed, I'm conquering. I'm alive, I'm pushing the pain, I'm in for the prize. Some people wanna turn and run, but the strong rise under the gun. Top to the top, ain't never gonna stop. To the top, to the top, ain't never gonna stop. Never gonna keep me down. Still the one that's standing now. Destiny is calling me, go down in history. Every day I fight to be legendary. Every day I fight to be legendary. smell what the rock is cooking. The rock says, the rock says, the rock says, the rock. They talk to me. You got your rules and your religion, all designed to keep you safe. But when rules start getting broken, you start questioning your faith. I have a voice that is my savior, hates to love and loves to hate. I have a voice that has the knowledge and the power to your fate. I hear voices crying, I see heroes dying, I taste blood that's trying, I feel tension rising. I hear voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me, they talk to me.
Hello and welcome to the WWE Wrestling Talk Show with Voice for Lock Jones and
John Randy Smith, and we bring you our first show of this post show with NXT Takeover Wargames.
NXT Takeover Wargames, of course, takes place the night before Survivor Series, which we will bring you momentarily. But first, we shall stick to the Wargames.
Yes, which came at you from the Rosemount, Illinois, at the All-State Arena.
In other words, Chicago, Illinois, the All-State Arena, once the site of WrestleMania 22.
Yes. We'll head off first to the pre-show.
Two things took place significantly on the pre-show, one of which would have a great effect on the main card. But before we get to that, there was a match to take place between Isaiah, Swerve Scott, and Angel Garza.
In the winner of the match in about 7 minutes was Angel Garza.
Yes, after hitting the Wind Clipper. Now,
Isaiah Swerve Scott.
Now, the other thing that took place on this pre-show was that Mia Yim, who was scheduled to be a member of Team Ripley in the Wargames match, was found attacked by an unknown assailant and was therefore ruled out of Wargames. Rhea Ripley would then choose Dakota Kai as her replacement. Bad idea, and we'll get to that right now, because the main show opened up with the Women's Wargames match.
It was between Team Ripley of Rhea Ripley, Candice LeRae, Tegan Knox, and taking Mia Yim's replacement, Dakota Kai.
They would go against Team Blazer, the NXT Women's Champion Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair, Io Shirai, and the NXT United Kingdom Women's Champion Kaylee Ray.
This match was around 27 minutes long.
Now, the way that this Wargames and the men's Wargames match tends to work the same way, a member of each team starts in the ring. After 5 minutes, a member from one team will enter the ring. This continues until the entire team is in the ring, and then it's up to the first team to get a pinfall or submission.
Is the winner.
So, Candice LeRae and Io Shirai began for their respective teams.
Yes.
Next to come in from Team Baszler was Bianca Belair. Then for Team Ripley we had the team captain Rhea Ripley.
And then next to go in?
Next to come in for Team Baszler was Kaylee Ray. However, this is where things get a little bit interesting.
Yes.
Because as Dakota Kai was scheduled to make her entrance into the match, she would attack Tegan Nox
viciously with the steel cage door and the steel door itself, signaling the end of Team Kick and her being the traitor on Team Ripley.
Turning heel, seemingly being the person who took out Mia Yim backstage, and leaving this to be what essentially became a 4-on-2 Wargames match.
Leaving the odds in the advantage of Team Shayna Baszler.
Yes, because they still had Shayna Baszler to enter. However, sometimes it's not about the numbers, it's about who's in the ring.
It is, absolutely right.
Because in the end, despite the numbers advantage, we had Baszler attempt to use the Craphia Crutch onto Ripley. However, Ripley had Shayna Baszler handcuffed.
She did.
And performed the Riptide through not one, but 2 chairs to win the match. To win the match.
And this match, compared to what was to come for the men, pretty brutal.
Brutal, maybe a bit tame, but then again, it is the women's version. And the first women's Wargames match.
Hopefully the first of many.
Our next match was a triple threat match.
That has Survivor Series implications.
Yes. Killian Dane would take on Damian Priest and former United Kingdom champion Pete Dunne for the right to face Adam Cole for the NXT Championship at Survivor Series the following night. And you all know what triple threat matches are like. You have to have eyes in the back of your head.
Pretty much, but the winner after a 19-minute matchup and number one contender to face Adam Cole at Survivor Series for the NXT Championship was the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne.
Yes, after Killian Dane performed a running senton onto Damian Priest.
Ouch.
However, Pete Dunne managed to get Killian Dane into a sleeper hold, which then allowed Pete Dunne to pin Damian Priest to win the match. Right place, right time.
Yes, pretty much. But now, this match has personal written all over it.
This match was probably originally planned to feature Johnny Gargano.
But unfortunately, due to an attack by Finn Balor, Johnny Gargano was not medically cleared to compete.
So this then turned into Finn Balor versus Matt Riddle.
The original bro.
And considering that Finn Balor had just turned heel, I don't think anyone was really expecting him to lose this match. And after hitting Matt Riddle with a 1916,
the same move that injured Johnny Gargano on the entrance ramp,
Finn Balor would win this match.
much to everyone's shock and amusement. Not.
Now, the final match to take place at Wargames was the men's Wargames match when
Representing Team Ciampa was team captain Tommaso Ciampa,
Keith
Lee,
Dominic Jakovic, and an unknown member who would be revealed later in the match. They would take on, for the third year in a row, competing in Wargames, the Undisputed Era
of NXT champion Adam Cole, the NXT Tag Team champion Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, and the NXT North American champion Roderick Strong.
So, starting this match, if I can find it.
Talk amongst yourselves.
We had Tommaso Ciampa and Roderick Strong. Then Kyle O'Reilly entered the match, being followed by Dominic Jakovic from Team Ciampa. Then after that, we had Bobby Fish enter, who was then followed by Keith Lee, and then Adam Cole, which had all four members of the Undisputed Era in, and only 3 members of Team Ciampa.
This is when the countdown clock ticked down to 0.
Yes, after the 5-minute period was coming to an end and we had the countdown clock to the end, the Undisputed Era thought for a brief moment that no one had accepted the invitation to take part in this match. However, after a brief moment when they turned back to the rest of Team Ciampa, we heard this music go off. Yes, the return to NXT of former NXT champion Kevin Owens, who has a little bit of a score to settle with the Undisputed Era following NXT's invasion of Raw and SmackDown.
And Kevin Owens quickly took to, like a duck took to water, dominated this matchup very quickly for Team Ciampa.
Yeah, and there was, how do I say this? Spots left, right, and centre here.
Including one that ended the match.
Yeah, first we had things like a stunner performed on Roderick Strong. You're welcome, Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Adam Cole would attempt to do a Panama Sunrise on a steel tear. We had a chokeslam, Undertaker game. We had the frog splash through a table.
Ouch.
But in the end, it was Tommaso Ciampa who performed an air raid crash off the top of the Wargames cage through not one but two tables on Adam Cole.
1, 2, 3.
That got the 3 count and the win for Team Ciampa. However, due to the fact of competing in this match, Kevin Owens' loyalty would come under question the following night.
Now, after this match, something quite controversial happened.
Yes, just before we get to Survivor Series, after the match, the camera zoomed out to the crowd and then zoomed in on a very concerned looking woman. The only trouble is that this very concerned looking woman happened to be
Dr. Britt Baker on AEW, who is in a relationship with Adam Cole.
awkward. If this happened on Raw or SmackDown, or a show that Vince had full control over, you might find yourself out of a job.
But after the show, when Triple H took questions, he spoke to Adam Cole, he spoke to the other people that were concerned, and it was swept under the carpet.
Well, let's jump forward 24 hours to Survivor Series.
Which, again, came out from the same arena that NXT Takeover Wargames was in.
And this was not just Raw versus SmackDown, this was Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. And most of the NXT talent that competed at Wargames were also competing in matches here.
The risk for the superstars that were going to compete in the Wargames matches, the risk for injury for them definitely doubled.
So we have 10 matches, yes you heard us right, 10.
Plus the eliminations that happened in the match, when we get to them.
10 matches, 7 of them were brand versus brand matches, or brand versus brand versus brand. So let's jump into the 3 matches which took place on the kickoff show. We had a 10-team inter-brand tag team battle royal in which when one member of a team is eliminated, the entire team is eliminated.
Yeah.
Here we had teams such as the Forgotten Sons from NXT, the Lucha House Party from SmackDown, Hawkins and Ryder from Raw, Imperium from NXT, Heavy Machinery from SmackDown, Breezango from NXT, The Revival from SmackDown, the OC from Raw, the Street Profits from Raw, and Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode from SmackDown.
But the winner, or the winning team, for the last, they were down to 2 teams. Representing Monday Night Raw were Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford of Monday Night Raw, and representing SmackDown was Glorious Domination of Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode.
And the winning team would be Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, which would give the first win to SmackDown.
So we'll say again, SmackDown 1, NXT 0, Raw 0.
This isn't a football game, there's no such thing as 1-0.
True.
Then we had a interbrand triple threat match for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, or should we call it the pre-show championship, being back.
As Lio Rush, the NXT Cruiserweight pre-show champion, defended his championship against Akira Tozawa of Monday Night Raw and Kalisto of SmackDown Live.
Lio Rush would end up retaining the NXT pre-show Cruiserweight Championship, and therefore
giving NXT their first point of the night, leaving Raw yet to score.
Then we had the Champions versus Champions versus Champions Tag Team Triple Threat match when NXT Tag Team Champions, the Undisputed Era's Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, would take on SmackDown's Tag Team Champions Big E and Kofi Kingston in the New Day, and Raw's Tag Team Champions in the Viking Raiders Eric and Ivar.
And the winner of the match in about 14 minutes and scoring the first point for Monday Night Raw were the Viking Raiders, the Raw Tag Team Champions.
Yes, after they pinned one of the members of the Undisputed Era who, as you can't really blame them after having gone for a Wargames match. So, now we go on to the main card.
And the complex eliminations will now take place. And if you keep in score, 1 point for all three brands so far.
Oh yeah, before we do that as well, on the pre-show, Team NXT for the Men's Survivor Series match was named by Shawn Michaels, and they were named as Tommaso Ciampa, Damian Priest, Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, and United Kingdom champion Walter.
And leader of Imperium.
But anyway, the main show opened up with the Women's Survivor Series elimination match when Team NXT, who had been named the previous night on Facebook, which
Team NXT was Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Candice LeRae, Io Shirai, and former NXT UK Women's Champion Toni Storm, likewise with Rhea Ripley.
They would take on Team Raw, which would consist of Charlotte Flair, Natalya, the Women's Tag Team Champions of Asuka and Kairi Sane, and out of the blue, Shelly Logan.
And representing Team SmackDown was Sasha Banks, Carmella, Dana Brooke, the Sassy Southern Belle Lacey Evans, and Nikki Cross.
Now let's run through this very slowly. Candice LeRae and Io Shirai, after a brief moment, after like a scuffle, were said to be unable to compete and were eliminated due to suffering injuries, which would leave Team NXT with just 3 members.
However, the first elimination went to Team NXT as Bianca Belair eliminated Nikki Cross.
The first official elimination, yes. Then we had Bianca Belair again eliminate Sarah Logan.
Carmella was next to fall for Team SmackDown, and she was eliminated by pinfall by Raw captain Charlotte Flair.
From a natural selection, yes. Then Kairi Sane was eliminated by Sasha Banks after Banks did a...
I think it might have been a bank statement or a back break or a back stabber.
One or the other.
And then the next to fall for SmackDown was Dana Brooke, as she was eliminated by the other half of the Women's Tag Team Champions, Asuka. And then...
This is when it gets interesting. Because then...
started to break down for Team Raw.
Yes, then Team Raw started to break down. Charlotte would end up getting green misted, which would allow Lacey Evans to get to be able to roll up Charlotte and eliminate her.
Right.
Asuka would then eliminate herself by walking out of the match.
Then Natalya would eliminate Lacey Evans
with a sharpshooter. Then Toni Storm would be eliminated by a combination of a sharpshooter and bank statement.
Bianca Belair was then eliminated by Sasha Banks.
By pinfall, as was Natalya. This would then leave team captains of NXT and SmackDown with Sasha Banks and Rhea Ripley. However, Candice LeRae and Io Shirai would show back up.
Meaning they were never eliminated from
well,
the matchup.
they were technically eliminated. They were technically eliminated, but technically not. And Ripley would then hit the Riptide on Sasha Banks, allowing Team NXT to pick up the victory, allowing the scores to be NXT 2, SmackDown 1, Raw 1.
Which means NXT take a 1-point lead going into the next matchup.
The second match on the main card was the Triple Threat Champions vs. Champions match, when SmackDown's Intercontinental Champion Shinsuke Nakamura
With a new belt design.
would take on the then, and we'll get into this in a little bit more detail slightly later on, but would take on the then United States Champion AJ Styles.
As he would also take on NXT's North American Champion, a member of the Undisputed Era, Roderick Strong.
And after a very good triple threat match where the action was all over the place, because these three athletes know what they're doing. But again, this goes down to classic triple threat moves, right place, right time. AJ Styles would hit with normal forearm onto Nakamura, only for Roderick Strong to send him out of the ring and pick up a pinfall on Shinsuke Nakamura, giving the win to NXT.
And putting NXT 3 points ahead.
Yes, NXT would be 3. SmackDown and Raw had 1 each. Taking a slight break from
Scores.
from brand versus brand versus brand.
So you can put your scorecards away for now.
The next match would be the match for the NXT Championship, when Pete Dunne would challenge Adam Cole
For the NXT title.
Here, it got a little bit intense, and
Intense is probably the word.
I would say that I would hazard a guess that in this match, if it took place at a takeover and there was more of a story behind it, would have gone a different way.
But the winner of the match, and
after following a last shot to the back of the head, the winner of the match was and still NXT champion, is the leader of the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole.
baby.
No.
next match.
The next match would be the singles match for the Blue Universal
Universal
Championship, when the Fiends of Bray Wyatt would take on Daniel Bryan. Now, before we get into this match, we must take a short break, but we shall be back momentarily.
See you soon. How close were we?